I have to be one of the most fortunate people in the world. I have encouragement all around me, and I have always had this, growing up. I didn't do anything to deserve it. I had my pops always telling me that I was the greatest. I had my mama telling me that I was awesome, I was beautiful, I could do anything that I put my mind to. I have my brother who gives me a hard time, but at the same time will encourage me at the highest levels. My buddy Will encouraging me. My buddy Greg encouraging me yesterday, sending me a text. My buddy Keith Hale, who's going to be at the Vibe Room. Baron Baptiste. I've got just James Dixon, my buddy Peter Anthony. All these people are constantly encouraging me. And I just want to give some encouragement out to you because I get so much of it. I want to tell you that you're exactly where you need to be at the exact right time and that God is big enough if he needed you in another place. And, I thought back this morning as I was spending a little bit of alone time. And I remember I was walking through the airport and I had this event happen to me. And so I just grabbed my phone and I started dialing frantically. I was trying to figure out what the 10 numbers were to be able to dial. But I knew them by heart. But in the moment, it was so crazy because I couldn't remember them. I was racking my brain for them. And then I dialed the number, and as I dialed it, it took what it felt like was years to be able to ring, but it probably took a couple of seconds. In between the rings, it seemed like even longer, and then finally, a very calm and peaceful voice answered the phone. And it was almost as if it was disrespectful to me because I was thinking I have this thing to tell you. I am so excited. This is the biggest moment right now in the last little bit for me. You should be excited too. And the peaceful voice came on and I didn't even let him say hello. I was just like, oh my gosh, I just walked by Greg Jackson. And at the time, Greg Jackson, in the UFC, he was the number one trainer in the UFC, trained John Jones at the time. I mean, he was at the top of the food chain. And I had just walked by him and I said, I not only saw him, but I stopped and he talked to me and he took a picture with me. And I was explaining this to the somber voice on the other end of the phone. And it almost went silent. There was no real reaction. And then the voice said to me, no, Greg Jackson got to meet you. And then he chuckled, but it was serious. It wasn't laughing at me. It wasn't laughing with me. He just chuckled and then changed the subject to help me to understand that it wasn't Greg Jackson that I should be looking at. It should be that I should have so much value on what I bring to the table that someday Greg Jackson will look at that picture and say, oh my gosh, I got to take a picture with you. And that's what my brother was saying to me. And the reason why he was saying it is because that's the way that he viewed me. And he was teaching me a lesson at the time. And at first I was like, man, this is crazy. But, I'm so fortunate to have someone in my life that will stop me and say, it's not about all these things that you think people are accomplishing. It's about the character that you walk with. And that's the reason why you should value people. And so it was incredible because in Proverbs 8, as I sat down, it was a call out to focus on what really matters as opposed to the perceptions that have very little value. I'm excited to jump into this today and again, encourage you as much as humanly possible today on this Friday. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
I wish that I could share my brother. Actually, I do. I share him on the podcast. He's been on before. He's been on multiple times, actually, and on You Have to Meet My Friends. And he did an expert show. He was one of the top attorneys, personal injury attorneys in Las Vegas, Cardenas Law Group. Unparalleled service and a fixation on making sure that the people inside the cases that he works on are taken care of at the highest level. And that's the reason why he has what I call is the holy grail of marketing. He has what I call evangelical marketing, meaning that people out there that experience what he gives and what Cardenas Law Group brings to the table with the whole entire crew, with Taylor, Veronica, with Diana. I mean, when someone experiences that, they go out and they want to spread the gospel of what it is that they're doing. And so when I say evangelical marketing, this is the highest level of marketing where a person doesn't get any reward for it, but they constantly want to preach the gospel of what it is that you're doing because you create such a phenomenal service. And my brother has taken this concept of the 10-10, the 10-10 rule, meaning that he just focuses on one, and that one gets him 10 as opposed to focusing on 10 to try and get one. It's a completely different way of going about marketing, but I tell you, it's the holy grail. Most of us spray and pray, and we hope that out of the 1,000 emails, 1,500, 15,000, that we get one lead, and that lead becomes warm. Well, why not take it, flip it around, and focus on the person that you're dealing with? And that's what Cardenas Law Group does every single time. So I love you, brother. You inspire me all the time. And I hope that every single one of you guys gets to not only experience my brother, but also has a person like him in your life. So in Proverbs 8 and Inchstones, tomorrow we're celebrating. We're celebrating today anyway, TGIF, my mom's favorite day, my favorite day. Friday's always a party. But also too, tomorrow is the Vibe Room, and it's completely sold out. It's there in Salt Lake. It's a live version of the podcast. We got Baron Baptiste, we got Janae Thompson, and we got Keith Hale. This lineup is amazing. Curtis Nieder is going to be there playing music also. It's going to be a phenomenal night. It's not just about the people who are on the stage, but the people in the room that can really change your life, and it really is a vibe. So stay tuned for the next one. They sell out quick, so on this episode of Inchstones, and if this is your first time tuning in, Inchstones is the small series of improvements, right? So we just stack little tiny things on top of each other, and then ultimately you are able to have a milestone. But if we focus on the milestones, sometimes we don't celebrate the Inchstones that are the foundation of those milestones. And so we do this by going through the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. And, I've been doing this for 30 years, not this podcast, but I've been studying this, and the word comes to life. You read the word, then it reads you. And today it was reading me because I thought about that experience walking through the airport, thinking that Greg Jackson, who's an amazing man, has a phenomenal accomplishments, some great accolades, all those things. But it kind of shifted my perspective when I said, oh my gosh, I got a chance to take a picture with Greg Jackson, meet him. This was so amazing. And my brother just very calmly was like, no, Greg Jackson got to meet you. And I want you to know that in that same realm, like it's an honor for people to meet you. It's an honor for people to be in your presence. But how can we build that character where that value will be there for every single person who comes into our presence? In Proverbs 8, it kind of takes us right down the line. So in verse 1 through 9, this was great. I hadn't seen it this way. And again, I've studied Proverbs, the corresponding day, or corresponding proverb, corresponding day. I've done this for 30 years, and I've never read it in this way. Today it read different because my circumstances are different, right? There's 31 Proverbs in the book of Proverbs. There's 31 days in a month. You read them, and I tell you, that word starts to come to life. But listen to this in verse 1 through 9. Wisdom will add value. That will create a pull so you don't have to push anymore. See, push marketing is what we were talking about earlier, right? It's like the spray and pray. It's like I send out 1,000 emails and I hope to be able to get one person to respond. Well, imagine if you were able to talk to the one person. I was just talking to Art Barter yesterday, and we were talking. He's the founder of the Servant Leadership Institute, incredible friend of mine, unbelievable man and a great mentor. And as we were sitting, he told me about the pattern of John Maxwell. And John Maxwell actually has had a lot of success outside of the United States. And what he's done is he's gone to foreign countries and he's actually connected with the president or the leader of that company or that country. And he's established leadership principles there, and it made it so easy to touch the rest of the people in the country. Think about that. Most of us go to the masses and then try and get to a place. But imagine this. Imagine if you went to the one that could go get you 1,000 as opposed to going to the 1,000 that will get you the one. And when we are in push marketing, we're constantly pushing it on people, but pull marketing is what I was telling you my brother has with Cardenas Law Group. His service, his level, his acumen, his dedication to his craft pulls people to him where he doesn't have to do mass advertisement. And this is incredible to be able to see, but it was written 3,000 years ago, but it's been hiding in plain sight. Watch this. If we seek wisdom, you will receive prudence, trustworthiness, discernment, knowledge, and you will speak life. Meaning that you will always constantly speak life into environments and people that are around you. And when you do that, then you'll add value, right? And so in verse 10 through 11, the real value is in the hands that are led by the mind that is rooted and grounded in the heart. You got to sit with that for a second, right? The real value is the hands that are led by the mind that is rooted and grounded in the heart. When the heart is the foundation, that it lays the foundation for the walls to be able to be put up of your mind, then your actions will be in line with that. And once that happens, it creates an irresistible vibe. Your heart set, your mindset, your skill set. Your heart set, your beliefs, your skill set, or your mindset, which is your intentions, and your skill set, which is your actions. Align them. It creates an irresistible vibe. And what is that vibe? It's simply the way in which people feel when you leave. It's not the energy you bring into the room. And when people want to be a part of that vibe, they feel it. They feel it. They want to be a part. That's what creates the pull towards you and that value. In verse 12, focusing on the one will bring you many. And I already said this, but I mean, my pops would always say, he said, the rule of 10. 10 are coming to you because the one, or 10 are going away from you because the one. So make sure that you treat every single person at the highest level possible and make sure that they feel like they're the only person on earth. And when they feel like they're the only person on earth, then they will send you 10. And when those 10 come in, then you treat them the same way and they will send you 10. You just went from 1 to 100. And then you take that 100 and you do the same thing and then you're to 1,000. And most people don't need more than 1,000 clients. But that happened within 3 little cycles. But let's flip it around, right? And say, if I don't do my best and that person tells 10 people, now 10 people are staying away from me. Those 10 go tell 10. And now I got 1,000 people out there within 3 cycles that are saying, don't go anywhere near them. Or I can market to the 1,000 to try and get the one. I would much rather be a sniper than shooting a shotgun into the air, hoping that it would work. Think of this. In verse 13, have you truly committed? When you commit, you eliminate the options. And as I was reading in this, it was talking about the commitment. Like the commitment is just to cut off. Like you cut off the other options. And that means that you're truly committed. When you're committed in marriage, you cut off the options of any other, ladies in your life or men in your life. So when we look at this, have you truly committed? Right? People talk about it, call it burn the boats. You could call it that, call it whatever it is that you want. But once you commit, like commitment's not commitment until it's commitment. And once you're committed, then you go, right? And when you go, it's incredible the advantages that you have. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It's going to be simple. It's a simple decision, but it's not an easy process. In verse number 14, you will know the tree by its fruit, right? So if you get good counsel, sound judgment, insight, and you have power, that's the fruit of what wisdom is. It says it right in verse 14. And I never read it this way. I never read the power part, because when I think of wisdom, a lot of times people are like, oh, you just and you're just nice and all this stuff. But it said like you'll have wise counsel, you'll have sound judgment, you'll have insight, but it'll also give you power. Power to, once you commit, to go and to be able to do and be able to push through in times. It's this one blew my mind today. And in verse 15 through 21, there is no downside to wisdom. There's no downside to wisdom, only an upside. only an upside when you think about sound count or sound judgment, counsel, insight, power, right? Wisdom doesn't have a downside. This is probably one of the only things in life that doesn't have a downside. But it's been hiding in plain sight, and most of us overlook it because it's not the shiny, jumping up and down thing. And this was a thing that I got to have a conversation with Ethan Evans, who's he was the former vice president of Amazon. And I talked to him yesterday, and he said a lot of times people get wrapped up in technology or shiny things when it's the small little things that make the biggest amount of difference. And this is a guy who took a company from 10,000 employees to over 1 million. If you didn't listen to the episode, go back and listen to it. Ethan Evans, absolute genius. In verse 22 through 31, when all the dust settles, wisdom will be there. And even before the dust, wisdom has always been the foundation. And it laid it out in verse 22 through 31. Look at it. It just gave the receipts everywhere. Like before there was anything, there was wisdom. And during the middle, there was wisdom. At the end, there'll be wisdom. And what he's saying is just like, listen to it. And what is wisdom? The right use of knowledge. Where do we get that? From the fear of God. What does the fear of God actually mean? It means the respect of God. How can we respect somebody? By hearing their words, seeing their actions, that they're in line, and then we start to respect them. When you start to respect God, you spend time with him daily, he'll start to give you wisdom, right use of knowledge. Once he gives you the right use of knowledge, he can bring the knowledge because then you can use it. Then he'll bring understanding, insight, he'll bring discretion, he'll bring discipline, and then he'll bring strength, and it will lead you right back to the fear of God or the respect of God because you'll want more of it. And so in verse 32 through 36, when you seek wisdom, listen to wisdom, apply wisdom, you will walk light, full of grace, love, and peace. It's a simple choice, but will you choose it? You see, my brother in no way was diminishing the accolades or accomplishments of Greg Jackson when I was talking about it earlier. He was simply inviting me to understand that your character, not what you've done, is where your true value is. So my question to every single one of you, what area of your life do you see that wisdom can be applied? And what challenges in your work could use some wisdom? Well, I'm very, very fortunate, again, to have a brother like I have, to be able to see an example and to be able to get the encouragement. And I want to encourage every single one of you, like every one of you, exactly where you're at. And what I would invite you to do is today, take a second. It's 30, how many verses? 36 verses. It won't take you that long to read. And here's my interpretation of it, of Proverbs, but I want you to read it. And when you read it, I want to see what you'll take away from it. And I'd love to hear your takeaway from it in the comments. As always, subscribe, comment, share, do all those things. Come to the Vibe Room, buy the book, The Vibe. The link is in the bio. Check that out. Do what you know you need to do. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Inchstones. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised.